Thanks for joining us in the Green Room at the Heritage Foundation. I'm Rob Bluey, and today we're joined by Andy Puzder. He's Chief Executive of CKE Restaurants, which operates Carl's Jr. and Hardee's, and he's the author of a new book, Job Creation, How It Really Works and Why Government Doesn't Understand It. Andy, thank you.
Glad to be here, Rob. Thank you.
Well, let's just start off. I need to know, what's your favorite meal at Carl's Jr. and Hardee's?
$6 burger, hold the mayo.
Okay, great.
And fries and a soda. You know, it's kind of the traditional Midwestern dinner.
Excellent. Well, now turning to the book, can you explain to us how job creation really does work and why the government is in the way?
Well, job creation works through the private sector. The private sector creates self-sustaining jobs that generate revenues which the government can tax, and then the government can take those taxes and do what a government needs to do. Government, on the other hand, only has its tax revenues to operate from, so they really can't create self-sustaining jobs, jobs that create the kind of revenue you need to run a government. It's kind of the reverse. I think government just doesn't understand how much uncertainty it creates in the economy when it attempts to regulate what the private sector does, and it really doesn't understand what the private sector does.
Now, in the book, you list 57 different regulatory categories in which basically you need to fulfill to open and operate just one restaurant. Why even bother?
You know, it's actually a 24-page list that my co-author condensed down to a page so that the list didn't turn into a chapter. In some states, like California, we're really not going to bother. We've got about 700 restaurants there, would love to open more, love California, great place. But it's become so hard to open a restaurant. It takes 8 months to 2 years once you sign a lease or buy the property just to begin construction, with all the permitting requirements and, you know, protecting the frogs, the toads, the arrowheads, everything you have to do in California. Whereas in a state like Texas, you can open in 6 weeks. You know, you can start construction in 6 weeks, and you don't have the regulatory requirements to open. And then once you're open, you don't have the regulatory requirements that really restrict the way you operate. California's really kind of dampening the entrepreneurial spirit with respect to retail businesses. So we're moving to more friendly ground.
Well, now, on that point, you know, we had some sweeping changes in terms of the political landscape last November, especially in many governor's mansions. Can you talk about which states really are welcoming businesses to come in and where you see potential growth in the future? Sure.
Texas is probably the #1 state. And there was just a CEO, I'm not alone in this, there was a CEO survey. I think Texas was #1 for the 3rd or 4th year in a row, and California was number 50 for the 3rd or 4th year in a row. Other states would be Tennessee. Tennessee's done a great job. North Carolina, also a great state to do business in. Florida, probably not as good as North Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas, but also very, very good. I'd say those are the top 4. Very friendly places to do business, and I think we can do a lot in those states.
Any plans to open a Hardee's in Washington, D.C.?
I'd love to open some Hardee's in Washington, D.C., and then you guys wouldn't serve our competitors' food at your dinners or your lunches. So we'll get some open as soon as we can.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us today, Andy.
My pleasure, Rob. Thanks for having me.
I'm Rob Bluey from the Heritage Foundation. I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can follow more In the Green Room videos and other videos that we produce.